Good evening, Mayor Bowman and members of the EPC. My name is Anny Chen. I'm a resident and homeowner in Councillor Gilroy's constituency with family in the suburbs and work as an educator and program coordinator in the South End. I worked a double shift yesterday so that I could take today off to listen to the full day of delegations and share my concerns with you. So thank you for the opportunity. Part of my work is with a group called Poverty Awareness and Community Action, which brings together students and community members who have lived experience with poverty. Together, we facilitate workshops that raise awareness about the impacts of poverty and the importance of a robust social welfare system. In previous years, when we would facilitate our workshop in person, the surprise takeaway for almost all participants was the challenge of and the challenges that arise from lack of affordable and accessible transportation affects every aspect of ability to get to work and attend healthcare appointments, to running errands and visiting great community spaces like resource centers and libraries as a family. The low-income bus pass and free fare for children under 12 are great first steps for the city and a huge accomplishment on the part of longtime community advocates, but the city needs to make further investments to expand this program. $50 per month is still much more than some can afford for transportation, particularly for our relatives on the street. It's even too much for one of the qualifying groups that is listed on the WinPass website, people on EIA. Though it may come as a surprise for some, I know it was a surprise for me, someone on general assistance receives $630 for housing, about $120 for food, and just $70 for other expenses per month. So these might include clothing, COVID-19 supplies, a phone plan, and yes, transportation. The city has an opportunity to play an even stronger role in making transit even more accessible by maintaining service levels and redirecting that funding to make buses safe during COVID-19, bringing back the number 3 downtown spirit, which connects the North End, downtown, and West End, and increasing service on routes with high ridership. The city also has an opportunity to show vision by committing to working towards fare-free public transit, first for low-income community members and then for everyone. This will take ongoing investment beyond our record-making tax-supported funding, which is due to make up for the fare loss during COVID-19. And if we match that record investment for budget 2022, in addition to the return of regular fare revenue, then I will know that the city is serious about investing in public transit. Walking and biking are also very common modes of transportation for the members of Poverty Awareness and Community Action. Sometimes people will walk 2 hours to get to a volunteer shift or healthcare appointment because they don't have the bus fare. Some of our members have mobility challenges, and it is so important that we properly invest in snow and ice removal from sidewalks, particularly in areas with higher numbers of pedestrians, which often correlates with low income. As someone who lives in the Spence neighborhood but visits other neighborhoods, I've seen the difference in snow and ice removal between low income and more affluent neighborhoods. I would like to see council make greater investment in the maintenance, repair, and snow and ice removal for sidewalks and document that improvement and feedback. Since COVID-19, we had to adapt our poverty awareness workshop for online delivery, and we integrated COVID-19 as an additional factor at play for people facing poverty. Not surprisingly, the importance of affordable and accessible communication has become the biggest takeaway for our online workshop. After purchasing a $50 low-income bus pass from the $70 for additional needs, someone on EIA general assistance would only have $20 left for everything else. I don't know about you, but I'm not sure of any phone or internet plan that costs that little, and a $20 pay-as-you-go card goes quick when you're on hold during COVID-19. Community members rely on libraries, resource centers, and government offices like Service Canada to access internet, computers, printers, and phones. These are just a few of the essential services that community organizations and community services provide. I would like to see council refund community organizations alongside city-provided community services like libraries, waiting pools, and recreation, and expand and reduce barriers to accessing free internet access provided by the city at libraries to other city buildings. Our group, Poverty Awareness and Community Action, we're grateful to be included in the consultation process for the poverty reduction strategy, which is currently in development, as many people know. This strategy is absolutely necessary and long advocated for by community groups and organizations. I would like to take a moment to commend the city staff who are developing this strategy for using public engagement strategies that prioritize the lived experience of people who face poverty. I can't overemphasize how important it is for council to listen to the constituents who will be the most impacted by the decisions, which means listening to people who have lived experience. Unfortunately, my understanding is that the city expects to implement the poverty reduction strategy, which will be presented early in the new year, within existing budgetary constraints. This is not possible, and it's particularly not possible with the budget that you have proposed. Though the province has a big role to play in social welfare, this does not excuse the city's role. So I am glad to see the city both acknowledge that they have a role to play and name areas that they have already begun that work in the website on the poverty reduction strategy. I would like to see council include significant dedicated funds, and dare I say comparable to the police budget, for implementation of the poverty reduction strategy in the 2021 to 22 budgets, which will need to address challenges in accessing transportation, communication, recreation, housing, food, community, and more. To find sources of revenue, I invite council to reference the 5th call to action in the petition put forward by Justice for Black Lives Winnipeg. It lists possibilities for immediate steps of action, including canceling all cadet classes, freezing hiring, and cutting overtime budgets. The Winnipeg Police Services, the Police Board, Council, and some constituents may associate community safety with the police. Many people in Winnipeg do not. Community safety is not having police who can dismantle people's homes, many of whom are Indigenous on Indigenous land. To me, community safety would be providing people with homes. We have been listening, learning, and rallying with Justice for Black Lives and not in another Indigenous life. And now that we know better, we need to do better. That's what you're hearing in the online survey that the city facilitated. It's often the case that people with confidence in the police have not had direct experience with them, particularly not direct negative experience. And people who find the police to be a violent institution have had disproportionately higher interactions with police. While some people may still have confidence in the police, I would be interested to know what they would think after having a conversation with people who are concerned about police interactions. I was one of those people who never had a problem with the police and wasn't concerned about the amount of funding they were getting. But now I know better and I want to do better because I've listened to people's experiences and I believe them. And I think there's a better way because there's research that tells us so and people's lived experiences tell us so. I also think that people don't always know what they're choosing between. And from what I understand from the austerity budgets, we seem to have to choose and make some hard choices. And so if you're asking me, would I choose a free bus or a new police station? I choose the free bus. If you're asking me if I would choose a police helicopter or that the city starts investing much more in affordable housing, I choose affordable housing. When we make decisions about the police, we actually need to listen to neighborhoods and individuals that experience more policing. And that would be my neighborhood is one of them. These neighborhoods would reflect the disproportionately higher numbers of police interactions. These are core area constituents, which are reflected in the online survey. And though that might not be statistically representative, we have to look at other things in addition, right? So we need to look at race. We need to look at not just age and like area of the city, but we need to look at who is experiencing harm and what they think needs to be done. I would like to see City Council freeze this police budget for 2021 and call upon Winnipeg Police Services to find further efficiencies in their operating budget, as well as commit to shifting funding to community supports next year and beyond. Also on the record, I would be glad to pay higher property taxes if they went to community supports and services. I don't want to pay more for police. I would like to close by talking about better public engagement, which is related to my work as an educator and helping students learn about community engagement. While I can see the value of a multi-year budget, there was not sufficient consultation and research to support the decisions that were made. In particular, we need to consult and base our decisions on input of those who are most impacted by the decisions being made. So in the case of police, we need to talk to people who are Black, Indigenous, living on a low income, and have disabilities and mental health challenges. When it comes to transit, talk to transit users. When it comes to sidewalks, talk to pedestrians and more. We need to make sure that public engagement is accessible, both in terms of translating the budget and justifications into plain language pieces, and in using communication methods that are accessible to everyone. So this budget, I don't think reflects that necessarily, because landline phone surveys, Zoom delegations, and online surveys aren't accessible to everyone. Meeting with a stranger and participating in focus groups with strangers aren't necessarily accessible to everyone. Building a city that works for folks facing the most challenges, who experience the most systemic oppression, will mean that we create a city that is better for everyone in the end. A city that we can be proud of, a city with great transportation, recreation, community organizations, libraries.
10 minutes has expired. If you could just please wrap up. And
I'm almost done, so that's great. So libraries and more. And for me, really importantly, a city free from poverty. That is a city that I would be proud of. So I hope you will listen to the stories of people with lived experience. I think they do matter. And I want to see these values reflected in the budget. And I don't see them in this budget. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for presenting. We appreciate your input and the fact that you probably waited some time to get in the queue today. Councillor Rowlands has a question for you.
Thank you very much for presenting with respect to the draft 2021 budget. You froze up, so I'm just going to trust you can still hear me and ask, and also want to thank you for participating in the poverty reduction strategy. That has been work that is making attempts, at least in the briefings that I have had from public service, on centering the work in social justice work and also in people with lived experience and doing it necessarily slower. So I was wondering if you would support doing it even slower in order to solicit more feedback from people.
I mean, from what I understand, they actually did a round of consultations, decided that they needed to gather more information, and they are in the process of doing that. I think there is a balance between really extensive consultation and also the urgency of the situation. So the challenge, I think, of a multi-year budget is making room to respond to urgent situations that arise. But I do think we have to take action now. And people are in the consultation that I was part of. People were very clear about what they needed, right? And one of them, like a big one for Councillor Allard, it's transportation. Like people really need transportation, and I know you're working on it already. But so I think we start now and we make sure that we have the room and the money to act on emergent needs that arise. And it's an ongoing strategy and an ongoing lens that we use to do our work in the city and that councillors use to assess. And really what we're all saying to you is that we have to look at everything through equity lenses. And it's not just from one person's perspective. It has to be through gender-based lenses. It has to be through poverty reduction lenses. It has to be through all of like anti-racism lenses, right? And so we need to apply those lenses, and the result will be better for everyone.
Thank you very much. Please stay safe, and we really do appreciate your input tonight. All the very best of the season.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks.